Okay, so for this video, oh, by the way, this is Paris Life, if you didn't know. For this video, Paris Life is going to show you, talk about really, VSTs, loops, sounds, honorable mentions for software, etc. And maybe some other stuff. But let's start with the VSTs, loops, and plugins and sounds. So when I say sounds, samples, I'm talking about the sounds that these are usually for drums, but these can also be melody loops. And I'm gonna shout out a brand right now, Cymatics.fm. It's spelled Cymatics.fm. Cymatics.fm. I highly recommend you go to their website. They have a bunch of free packs that I downloaded actually, and I made some of my beats recently with those packs. They're pretty dope and they're free. They got some cheap stuff that's also really dope, and then they got some expensive stuff that's extremely dope. So whatever level you want to play at, they're gonna hit you with some advertisements as you're trying to check out. Even if you get the free stuff to be like, oh, you want to buy this thing for like $8? You might be like, okay, fine, $8. You get it? You want to buy this thing for like $30? You might get that, you might not. Then they hit you with another one. You want to buy this thing for $200, man? Just real quick. Oh, it's normally $400, and then you know what I mean. So just be careful if you got like a heavy spending habit. Okay. Talking about myself a little bit, but anyway, I love Cymatics.fm, and they got free game. They got videos all over YouTube. Steven Cymatics, and I think the other guy is Andrew. I forgot. Oh, don't kill me if I get that wrong. But their videos are dope for not just making beats and mixing, but also music business. I gotta shout them out. They're super dope. But again, their sound packs are dope too, right? So that's a place where you can get free stuff, and then you can spend a little bit one time and get sounds. You know, again, there's drum sounds like kicks, boom, 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 snares, that's kicking the snare, right? And then you got your hi-hats. They got all of that in those packs, but then they also got loops, right? So they got drum loops, percussion loops, melody loops. They got all that, right? So that's one really good place you can get that stuff for free. But also you can get a little bit better quality stuff for a little bit of money. You can get some really high quality stuff for a lot of money. I gotta check the camera on that one. All right, so that's one place. So another example of a place to get like sounds and samples is Splice. I'm not gonna say the name of a friend of mine that uses that. You probably already know who it is. But me and one of my good friends use Splice, and it's dope. I really haven't used it in a couple months. I'm gonna be honest. I have the subscription. It's like what, $7.99 per month, and you just get like, I think it's like 100 credits every month, or 200, or some kind of crazy amount. I probably have like 800 or more credits. But basically, every credit you get a free sound. So it could be a hi-hat, it could be a loop. So again, it's not just drum sounds. It's also like loops of drums, or loops of percussion, or loops of somebody playing the piano, right? So there's some pretty sick samples in there. And for that price, it's like, wow, like even if you just try it for a month, I think they give you a free trial too. But even if you just try it for a month, you can't really lose, you know what I mean? So that's another way. But then too, there's plenty of other producers like Superstar O and a whole bunch of other people who have sounds and samples that they just sell or give away, maybe just off of the strength, maybe for your email or something like that. But there's a whole bunch of ways you can really get started with that to have really dope sounds to use for your productions. So those were a couple examples. But then let's talk about VSTs. So okay, I'm gonna be very honest with you. You're gonna hate me. I don't know what VST stands for, but they're also known as plugins. And plugins are dope because you can use these in any software. Okay, so one good example is I use Anna 2, which is a synthesizer that I got recently. I started using the not Waves, Slate Digital Academy. I signed up to Slate Digital, which is also, I think, $7.99 a month. And they give you a whole bunch of VSTs with your subscription that you can just download and have on all your programs, and they sound dope. They also give you a whole bunch of free courses, right? So that is another way I have been kind of coming up with production. But VSTs plugins are super important because they are made to sound dope without you having to do too much work. Now, again, programs like Logic and Machine, I love the native synths that they have in them, the native instruments that they have in them. Native instruments. They make Machine. I don't know if you caught that or not. But anyway, so that said, I love the native sounds that they have in them, in those two programs specifically. Reason has some good synths as well, I can't lie. But those two, Machine and Logic, have dope ones already. But if you get plugins and VSTs, you can really get some even crazier sounds. Like one really popular one is Omnisphere, right? So that is a plugin where it has a bunch of synthesizer and different emulators of sounds in it, and that's really popular right now. I think it's like $500, but it's definitely worth it. Another really good example is something like the Capitator. So that's an effect that a lot of producers use on their kick drums to get like a really tough, aggressive boom inside of their kick drums, right? So you can see I'm a nerd about this kind of stuff. But anyway, so those are two examples of VST / plugins that I do like. So just experiment, try different things, try some free trials and see what sounds good and what doesn't. Okay, so that's my little bit of game about samples, sounds, plugins, VSTs, etc. So as far as programs go, in the last video I talked about the ones that I have used or know a little bit about. So FL Studio, Audacity, which doesn't really count, but we'll put it in there. Reason, Cubase, Sony Acid, GarageBand, Machine, Logic. So some honorable mentions that I do want to throw out there. Adobe Audition. I know they used to have Cool Edit Pro Adobe, but me and Mario used to use that to record all of our audio, and he made it sound dope. We also used to use Waves a lot. So he used to go crazy with the Waves audio plugins. So those are, Waves is pretty dope too, for real. Those are worth checking out, and they have a subscription as well. They have a whole bunch of different effects, different plugins, so different compressors, different tape simulators, emulators, different reverbs, different EQs, all kinds of different sounds to just make your material just sound next level, sound even better, with these pieces of software that just really hit the human ear just the right way and make your job a little bit easier, or just add an extra dimension to your art, whatever you're trying to do. But going back, as far as softwares go, some other softwares I want to talk about just really quickly are Ableton and Studio One. So Ableton, that is a software that can take you far if you know how to use it. It's very popular. Ableton Live is very popular industry-wide as far as making beats. It's also a software that I know can get a lot of work as a teaching artist if you want to teach younger people how to make beats. Ableton is a program that almost everybody can kind of get into. The thought process behind making beats is a little bit different with that, though you can use two different approaches. So the reason it threw me off at first, and why I really honestly don't super duper know it well, is because I was introduced to it as more of a way to make loops. And it's kind of similar to Machine, I guess, in that way, which is why I only use Machine to kind of get my project started, but not to finish them. I finish them elsewhere. But Ableton Live, it not only has that really cool loop ability, it also has that left to right kind of thought process approach that you can use to create full projects. So my brain, because almost all the other software I've been using since I was a teenager was all left to right. You know what I mean? So that's how I think of my songs, is left to right, left to right. I'll think groove first, and then how do I make this groove go from left to right, beginning to end, etc. That's how I think of my songs most of the time. So Ableton is really cool, and it's a program that you can really get kids introduced to really easily and for free, honestly. Or you can buy a slightly better version for $100. And then they have another version beyond that. I forgot how much it costs. I want to say it's $200-300, maybe more. Now, another program I want to shout out as an honorable mention is Studio One. I haven't used it yet, but my boy Nathan Nice, shout out to him. He picked it up at my recommendation, and he loves that program. He got the free version and he loves it. They have a slightly better version for $100, and I think they have an even better one for $200-300. So that's another program I've heard a lot of good things about, and I've seen people do a lot of cool stuff with. I have never used it, but man, it's certainly worth a look, and I might look into it at some point. So those are like the entries for those. Logic, again, is $200, but you have it for life. There's no subscriptions. I'm gonna mention Pro Tools right here. I don't know if they still, I think they do sell a perpetual license, which means you pay a one-time amount of money and then you own it forever. I believe it's $600. But I also know that you can do a subscription of like, I believe $20 or $30 a month. And then at that stage, you can have access to Pro Tools, which is cool, I guess, but I wouldn't recommend that personally, especially if you're just getting into music, unless you have clientele that you make money from that can pay that off for you. That's how I feel about that kind of thing. Stuff that you don't know a whole bunch about. But anyway, FL Studio is pretty cool. I know they have, again, that $200 producer edition of FL Studio, which I used to use and I liked quite a bit. They have all kinds of editions. I highly recommend looking at the Image Line FL Studio software and seeing what their prices are. But I know for $200 you get that producer edition. That's pretty cool. I liked it. And then if you pay more money, you get more features and more plugins. I remember that being the case when I had it. There was a limitation on the plugins I had access to. So keep that in mind. Let's see here. Reason's an interesting one because I think there's only two versions. You got the essentials and you got the full thing. I think the full thing is like $500, and then the limited version is maybe $200-300. For the essentials, you don't want the essentials version. Trust me, I tried that, and no. I'll get the full one if you can. It's a pretty good program. Cubase, I haven't used it forever. Don't know the prices on it. But they have a mobile app, which I heard is pretty dope. It's pretty dank, and I definitely recommend it if you have some extra bread and you want to try making music on your phone. And actually, Fruity Loops has a program like that too, which I've heard good things about both, decent things about both. Sony Acid, I bought mine for like $70 for just the regular, but there's a pro version as well. I think a different company took it over. I don't think it's owned by Sony anymore. So food for thought. GarageBand is free. So if I go back to Logic is $200, right? But GarageBand is free, and it's just the little brother of Logic. If you learn GarageBand first, that's a great way to decide if you like their workflow, and if you like it, at that point you may consider getting Logic. Food for thought. And then what else do we have here? We have a Machine. Machine is a tougher one. I gotta take that inhale on that, because Machine is a bit more of an investment. Okay, Machine is a bit more of an investment. So that one is one where I don't recommend starting with the cheaper version. Now, if you want to get like, when I say cheaper, like an older version of, but you want the full size one, that's what I mean. Because Machine will kind of trick you, I guess, because they have the regular Machine, and then they have the micro. So the regular MSRPs are $599 before tax. The micro is, I believe, $269. The micro, though, I haven't used it, but just looking at the buttons and everything, and from what I've heard, it's not as intuitive / easy to use as the regular Machine. So if you want to save money on a Machine and not drop $600 plus tax, or maybe you can save a little bit, like do what I did. I got my Mark III around Christmas time, and they took like $80 off of the MSRP. I just was like, no, I'm gonna go for it. But I would say with Machine, get the full size one, whether it's the Studio or the Mark II, Mark III, or Mark I. The Mark II is not bad. I have one in my car right now, right behind me. But anyway, the thing about the Mark II or Mark III, just make sure you start with the full size one. And then if you decide that you need to take this thing with you on the go, at that stage, it's okay to get the micro. That one is just for portability, and that's the only advantage you get with that one. Hence, I think the lower price tag. But if you want to save money, get an older full-size one. But I would stay away from the micro until you use the full one first and have an understanding of the workflow. Okay. And yeah. So those are some quick recommendations for softwares. That's going to be the end of this specific video. I got one more on making beats that I'll give y'all on the next one for this week. Peace.